All right. I'm up and running and we're live streaming. I've got a lot of stuff going on here, including using my Canon 60D as a webcam, something I've been testing out over the last couple of days, last couple of videos, as you may have seen. And let me check it on the dashboard, just make sure everything is okay. Hopefully we started live at the right point. Canon 60D as a webcam. I am doing some processing on a video that I shot today, and it's about my new aperture Lightstorm C120D that I bought, which you're seeing right now light me up. And that's the small box. And of course, in the video, it's lighting me as well. Keep looking over at the screen. I'm using my Canon 60D. I went and used the T2i, but I realized that the T2i doesn't have a flip out screen. One of the reasons why I bought the Canon 60D, and I can see the battery life. So I have to stop looking at the screen and look at the lens. But anyways, nice shallow depth of field for my webcam. It's all being done via software. Check the links in this video. I put all the tutorials and stuff that I use to create what you're seeing right now. It's down there in case you want to check that out. And oh, look at that. Geek's Life tried to use my 6D Mark II today, and it showed the menu items. Or using Magic Lantern. I'm not using Magic Lantern. It's all USB, and the USB doesn't, unlike the HDMI, maybe you use the HDMI and it doesn't have a clean HDMI out. You could also just cycle through the info button. You should be able to cycle through the info button there, Dave, and it not come through. But I'm using USB, and yeah, that's it. And it's all via software. Yeah, check out the links and see how I'm doing this. Hey, big fan. Thanks, everything. And I don't know, is there super chat on? Super chat? But if you have a question, just throw it in there because it's not so busy here that you have to do a super chat. So I never know how to turn that on, but I think it's on all the time. Anyways, you're seeing Adobe Premiere. These are the first things I do to a video. So actually, I think my favorite time, I think in the focus box, sorry, I'm going to address the chat as we go along here. But the focus box, if it's still there, try putting the lens in manual focus. Maybe the focus box will disappear, but it may be just that the 6D Mark II doesn't do clean output. But again, if that's HDMI, through the USB, it should work because I'm using a 60D and everything is on the screen right now. And it works. Oh, dude, check Geek Slice with the $5. Oh, man, you're awesome. Thanks so much. So anyways, one of my favorite parts about if you like gear review, by the way, you guys, if you're into gear, which you watch this channel, you are Geeks Life, you have to check out their channel, nonstop content. And they're the kings of live streaming. They're doing, they also do tons of live streaming. In fact, that's their business. So they know everything to do if you want help with your live stream. So I also, I was saying that this is my favorite thing right now. When I shoot a video, my favorite part is taking the card out, putting it into the computer, and seeing what it looks like. In my case, what it sounds like, because the A6500, which that's what this was shot on, does not have an audio output. And there are ways I can get one, but I need to invest in some other gear. That's okay. I check my levels, and I can check the audio before I go live. I just do a little playback. And it's not a problem. Everything but how to use Canon DSLRs. Yeah, right. Well, you'll know soon. You'll know soon. So anyways, this is my favorite part. So the first things I do, and I have to remind myself, don't make any actual cuts, right? So if I go over here, I've got a lot of stuff going on too, by the way. I'm using OBS, CamTwist. That's all part of using the webcam. I've got the new light. We're spinning plates here. So if something goes weird, you'll know. But I actually have the audio being piped into my audio system, mixer, and all that stuff. And if I play it back, what I haven't figured out is how to, maybe David knows this. I can't get the frame rate. Like if you watch, I'm going to play the video right now.
On the light, when the light is up above the system.
I think you're hearing that
really
as
nicely
well.
on the light stand. So
but it's probably
choppy. It's a little big.
The video itself is probably choppy, and I don't know where that's coming through. At least I got it to be 1080p this time. but the video is probably choppy on replay. And so let me watch that on my OBS. So on OBS, to me,
on the light when the light is
it's
up
real
above the
stuttery,
system,
and that's
hangs
probably
really
what you're
nicely
saying.
on the light
Actually, in
stand. So
Premiere, it's real
I like
stuttery
it. It's
right
a little
now.
big.
It probably doesn't help that this is 4K video. I am dropped down to half resolution. Excuse me, but it doesn't help that it's 4K video. My Mac fans are going pretty crazy, and this is a new 2017 iMac. The fans don't spin up that much, but we're doing a lot of processing right now. So anyways, I have to remind myself here not to go ahead and click on B and get a blade and cut and then make another cut and then maybe, delete something or just make a cut, period. Even if I make a cut, I'm going to Command Z all those. If I make a cut at all, that's going to mess up things when I go to process the audio. So I've got my video file in here, and I use an adjustment layer to do my color grading. So instead of color grading right here on the actual video file itself, I use an adjustment layer, and I can do things like change the opacity. So you're seeing an ugly freeze frame, but you're seeing, oh, there's actually what it looks like before. So that's S-Log2 footage that you're seeing, really flat. Could be flatter, but I like S-Log2 as opposed to S-Log3. That's just probably with 8-bit, and it's too much for me. S-Log2 gives me exactly what I want, and I'm learning how to dial that in to my liking. And then, so I add, in this case, Lumetri, however you say it, in Premiere. That's what I use to color grade. And I'm trying to use less of the presets, like there's CineSpace 25. But say I did want to use CineSpace 25. If you came in here and I actually went down to this and you took the input level, or whatever they call it here, they call it intensity. If I change that to 100, look at that. It's super, that's super color. And it kind of looks cool. But what's nice about it being on an adjustment layer here, not only can I make a change once I cut up the video. So again, if I cut up this video, and if I had one of these Lumetri color grades on one of these, or all of them, now every time I wanted to change something, I'd have to change it in every section of video. That's just ridiculous. If I'm got my color adjustment on the adjustment layer, you can see I can change the color underneath wherever I place this. So see, look, there's the adjustment layer. Now it's off because I've moved it. S-Log2, you're seeing that. If I want to put the color adjustment on, I just slide it over there. So I use an adjustment layer. And again, the other thing I can do here, again, CineSpace, that's too much. But I can take the intensity and I can just bring it down. And look at this, like it lets me dial it in, almost like, on something like Instagram with a filter. I can dial in the amount. And in fact, I could sit right there at like 54 and be pretty happy with that color grade. I mean, I'm almost done. I'm not a colorist at all, but look, I've done nothing. And I pull up the scopes here. I don't care for that scope. So I would change that to a parade type. I'd go, let's see. I want the parade RGB. Oh gosh, I don't want them both. So take off the waveform RGB. There, I like that. Now you can see the darks, the blacks are not down to the bottom. That would actually be too much for me. It'd be too much crush of the blacks. And there's some room up here in the highlights and the whites area. So I could adjust the exposure a little bit by coming over here. Either I could go to contrast and I could increase the contrast, which is going to stretch out. But that's just dropping too far down into the darks for me. It doesn't look that good. So I could take the whites here and I could pull those up to get things brighter, but now skin's starting to look overexposed. So where my face is at, you want that to be right, probably more down in the 60, but I can take highlights. I can bring up everything else in the scene with the whites there, and I could take the highlights and bring back my skin tones. And really we're almost back to where we were. So I just don't want to blow out those skin tones. And you could even go, with the exposure. We could go like 0.5 on the exposure. The exposure is super sensitive. I went 0.5 and it's way too much. 0.2 is good. And I could bring down those highlights and I could adjust the contrast in a little bit more, or I can make it a little bit deeper in the blacks, which some people like. And that's where the style is going to come in. You know, this is beyond color correction. This is color grading now. And look, that looks pretty good, actually, to me. I'd be fine with that. But I'm trying different ways. I'm trying to use less of these presets like CineSpace 25. And because sometimes I feel like it comes out and all my video doesn't look consistent. It looks graded, but it doesn't look consistent. Let's see what David had to say here. What's up, Arthur? Yes, it's stuttery for us here too. Unfortunately, Macs just are not good for streaming. Aha. I am 99% Mac, but for streaming, I'm 100% PC because they are much more efficient. See, streaming, David, no streaming. But you need to match the frame rate that you are sending out. So 30, which sounds like you did. So it's most likely your processor is maxing out. What is your PCU? I think that's CPU showing when you play it in OBS. Yeah, I was looking at the CPU was fine. So right now the CPU, whoa, don't shut down. No, I'm not ready to exit. The CPU in OBS is 25%. But if I play the video
I record, I have lots of daylight that comes streaming in. I kind of like the tungsten. If I was choosing between the two,
it's going down.
But this looks great.
24%.
And it helps me. But this looks great.
Let me do this. Let me mute the audio.
The light that I ordered.
So I mute the audio there. My CPU, I'm getting a red, kilobits per second. Tried to do 5,000 for a higher quality stream. Dropped frames, 85.4%. And at 23, I'm holding steady at 24% on my CPU. So, you know, it's a good Mac. See, that color grade doesn't look good to me. And that's why I'm trying to do more manual color grade, which I'll get into in a second here. But the CPU is holding at 24. We just hit 25. But still just as stuttery in OBS. Yeah, even you stuttered a bit when you played that. Yeah, so you're still saying CPU, so I guess it's not showing me what I need to be seeing. The CPU. I could check out the activity monitor. So, man, if I'm going to do regular streaming and if I wanted to turn into a Twitch streamer, if you guys want me to go to Twitch and stream bad sessions of PUBG, let me know. Also, if you play PUBG, let me know. You could duo or squad. I'm having fun with that. But internet upload, which, I mean, I've got the internet upload shouldn't be the problem at all. I do have like 100 megabyte pipe up and down. And I'm showing, my 5,000 kilobits a second. So hopefully, I mean, that, and it wouldn't affect the OBS. And it's probably not what you're saying at all. But Ray, were your ears burning? I was just telling someone that you taught me about Fed heads. Yeah, Fed heads. Love myself a good Fed head, even though I'm not using it these days. I have a DBX, so I don't need a Fed head. But I'm planning still, I have a DBX set aside for SM7B. Still wouldn't need a Fed head in that case, but I love my Fed head, even though it stays in the box most of the time. All right, so back to this. Again, like I was saying, I don't care for this color grade, even though I think it looks kind of cool. So we turn that off, go back to our S-Log. Now here's the color grade that I did. It still says Lumetri color and it says 2-strip, but that doesn't do anything to the video. So I've gone in and manually made some adjustments. And if I take that, look, first of all, watch the RGB parade. I color corrected it, so we stretched out the contrast some. But look at that. There's a S-Log. There's my more manual color grade, and that looks good. It's very natural. That's actually what I look like. That's what the room that I was in looks like. So that color grade I'm very happy with, and I think that would be a consistent look. It would be natural and consistent, and it's more about lighting than it is color for me. So more color correction these days. So what I did there was I, of course, went in and white balanced. I take this eyedropper. So why I use the Lumetri, and there are other panels to get to Lumetri, but I just use it here in the effects controls. Easy for me. That's the way I like to work with it. Probably because it was before they came out with the panel. I'm just not a big fan of the Lumetri panel. But the white balance selector and the eyedrop I went up here and actually, because this light back here, this LED that's lighting the background is the same, essentially the same color temperature, it's daylight balanced, as the key light that's lighting my face. I just went back and I clicked on this white wall and I got a good color correction out of that. But if that wasn't it, I might click on this white lamp. I might click on white teeth, anything white in the scene that's being lit by the lighting that you are using. And that's a good way. Otherwise, you can come here to the temperature in the tent and you can adjust that. But usually the eyedropper will work for me, and I might make some adjustments to the temperature control to dial it in. Of course, having a screen that's color calibrated is important. My Mac seems pretty good, this new Mac. I do have a color calibrator. I didn't do it to this Mac, but I'm happy with the results out of the box on this new Mac. So the exposure, I didn't change at all. I did come into the contrast and I bumped that up 61. So that, again, dropped my blacks down here a little bit, brought up my highlights or my whites, and then I dropped the highlights just to bring these peaks off of the top so nothing is blowing out. You see a couple things here, and that's the specular highlights, and especially look at these Christmas lights back here on my charging station, my tool board. Those are blown out, but they look beautiful. So certain things may be blown out in your scene and video that actually are that way in real life. So specular highlight off of this Mac actually is not losing anything there. It's mostly these peaks of this these overexposures are coming from these little Christmas lights that are in the board. So if you know, if you see this and you think, oh, I can't have anything up here. Well, if you know there's something in the scene like the sun or these lights, then you're okay. Here's some light right here on this LED that's supposed to look like that, so that's fine. I didn't change the shadows. The whites, I did bring those up quite a bit, actually, so that I brought up more room in the upper part of the RGB parade. And if you look at the RGB parade, I talked about white balance and clicking on here. Look, if I take this white balance and I click on something, here's the gray backdrop. Now we've gone all green, but you can see how the RGB parade shifts. Watch when it goes back to proper white. You can see red, green, blue, we're balanced across. And that's why RGB is better than just a standard histogram, because your histogram may be showing, I'm sorry, not your histogram. Having the waveform RGB instead of just the waveform with like the light, I'm blanking on the term. Having RGB shows you that each of these waveforms is color balanced and they're even here. So I know that even if I don't have a calibrated screen here, my scope, and that's why learning scopes helps, my scopes are telling me that looks good. I'm running on battery on the Canon and the aperture light. So at any moment we could lose either one. I mean, the camera is fine. I'm just streaming, I'm not recording on it. The battery does pretty well. The light I'm using is, the battery I'm using for the light is not really the one you're supposed to be using, but it has, I'm running about 50%, so it should be okay. But if the light suddenly goes out, then you know what happened. And the blacks I actually then brought down a little bit more as well, and that's this bottom part. So if I adjust these, you'll see, you bring the blacks up, that's basically less contrasty. That might look good. I'll go back to where it was. I don't know. See, the problem with color correction and color grading is every time you look at it, you almost want to change it because you find something looks a little better. I'm going to actually, I was at -13. I'm going to just go down about -8. So I am going to change it. And then I come down to the saturation. Now, since it's S-Log2, you have a lot of room to bump that up. I'm at 119 here. Normally on a, if I was using a standard profile, which is actually what you're seeing on the webcam version of this, if I was using that, I would only be at like 104, 106 max, but I'm 119 because of S-Log2. So you can really bump the saturation because there's, and I may be on my color profile, my A6500 may have that even down a little bit further. I don't recall the settings on that, but I like to come down here to curves. Curves are, they seem to be able to do something that I can't do with the sliders. So I made a real gentle S curve, and that is just coming down here towards the darker parts of the exposure. I'm on the white here, so I'm affecting all the colors. And I pulled that down just a little bit, but you can see as I drag that down, we really get a super contrasty image, which again, I kind of like. And if you look at the RGB parade, I can pull down and you're sort of crushing the blacks down there. High contrast image, I don't hate it, but we'll go back to less contrast. See, here I am changing. I am going to pull this curve down a little bit more to get a little bit more of that contrast back. And then the highlights over here, I can bring those up. You'll see the lights start to blow out the skin tones, way underexposed there. So I bumped them up just a little bit. So a gentle S curve generally leaves a nice look. And because I can't leave well enough alone, I'm going to go back to that. All right. My wife just texted me something that I need to do, which I forgot to do. So I better do that after the stream. Everything else down here I'm not doing. So some basic color correction. That's fixing things like exposure and white balance. Dialing those in from your raw image. And then my color grading, I'm not doing a lot of grading per se in this case. I'm just really trying to make it look nice and natural. So other than the curves, I didn't do a lot. So the creative down here, this is where we can affect some things. We could bring in the there's all kinds of different looks, and that didn't do much. But if I, here's blue cold. I mean, that's crazy. And I used to use these Fuji ones a lot. I mean, and then it's hard to resist because that looks really cool. And if I wanted, I could bring the intensity down and just put a touch of this. So if I wanted to put on about like 8%, let's go, too much, 17%. That might look better. I kind of like that look. I'm trying to stay away from that because I always then turn it on once I publish it and be like, nah, I overdid it. So if we go back, that was the standard. And now, see, I'm getting myself in trouble because I kind of like that look. I'm going to just put just a touch of this Fuji. Move down 15%, really light. And I like that. So it did give me a little bit more of a grade in there. I'm also shooting 4K, as I mentioned, but this is actually, I usually produce it in 2K or 2.5K, 1440, because it gives me room to crop into the image and move and recompose the image. I'm still getting 2K. Wait, isn't 2K like 1920? This is like 2.5K, whatever. I'm still getting a ultra HD image, whatever that is, with some room to crop. So you can see I'm at 100 and wait, let's go to there. I'm at 78% of the image. The 100, the image being in 4K, if I switch to 100 here, you'll see that's the 4K image. I've got a lot of room. And if I hit the motion here and I move this, I can move around. I can really change. I can recrop and do all kinds of stuff. So I'll go back 78%. I've even, look, the lines, see how they're tilted? I've even readjusted the rotation just a little bit because it wasn't quite level. So I love shooting 4K and then putting it out in like a higher than 1080p resolution or even 1080p. You have a lot of room, essentially turning one camera into two because you can have a nice tight shot. So you shoot a little wide. And with the 4K, I can punch in and you can make cuts seamless. Anyways, that's some of my color correction, color grading. See what's going on in the chat. Is that 50% gray sweatshirt? Yes. Yes, it is. Of course. Color balance off my sweatshirt. David Foster and Amy Rollins hooking up in the chat. That's cool. See, Geeks Life is a fan. David likes the contrast. I know. I think I'm going to stick right there. I think that looks good. I'm super happy with that. Better get that done. Trash comes tomorrow. Uh-oh, yeah. Trash. It's not trash. It's taxes. I got to give up some of this. All your super chat money is going to the government. But do your part. And let's see. Wow, didn't realize you could shift the rotation like that with 4K. Yeah, you can shift the rotation. You can crop in, crop out. That's the real benefit of 4K right now for me. Most people they're viewing on a mobile device. They're not going to watch in 4K. Most people don't have 4K televisions. There's just not a lot of, 4K is just not as ubiquitous right now. And shooting 4K and working with 4K footage sucks. It takes up that much more space. It's harder on the computer. You got to have a faster computer. It's just all kinds of stuff that's not that fun. But I do like shooting in 4K and then being able to recompose the image. All right. So that's my color grade. That looks good. In fact, that's a freeze frame where I don't actually hate looking at myself. So we'll leave it right there. The next thing I do is audio. And I didn't set up the stream for this. I set up the stream so that you can hear the audio. So that's good. Last time I didn't do that. But this time I didn't set up Audition, so that may take a second here. But what I was saying before is, look, here is, well, let me view the entire timeline here. And let me zoom out. There's my entire, at least this clip. I think I have 2 clips for this. And I recorded audio via lav mic, directly into the Sony a6500, and which does a great job. I changed my freeze frame without my color grading. There's the color grading, and that's a terrible freeze frame. There's an out of focus, or no, it's a shallow depth of field because the Sony does continuous autofocus. Now you're seeing my hand. Anyways, the Sony, I used a Rode Filmmaker Kit lav mic into the Sony, and that worked really good. I'll put all the links in the description, of course, affiliate links. Thanks for the support. And the key for me is to not make any cuts before I do my audio. Because again, if I make a cut and I do this, and then I want to go in here and process this clip, I now have 2 clips I have to process. It all becomes a big pain. So super easy to do your color correction. And one thing I will do is I'll disable the color grade that I did. I'll just disable that track and go back to my S-Log while I edit, because it's less processor intensive. So you can edit without less stutters or anything else. Your computer can handle it more. And because this screen, this program screen that I'm watching, looking at to do my edits in, because it's significantly smaller than your full screen, you don't need to run full screen if your computer is having issues. You can drop here from full to half or even quarter. So I put in heavy color grades. I can drop to a quarter. And when I watch it play back, it's going to get a little blurry in quarter, but half does well, and half looks great, and I don't lose any perception of resolution for me when I'm doing the edit. So I will definitely do that. It's dropped to half probably all the time, at least half. But again, I'll disable this adjustment layer that has the color grade on it, or just go ahead and you don't have to disable the layer. You can turn the effect off. And that'll ease up a lot of your CPU, your processing power. And of course, I'm always hitting Command S to save my project. But in Premiere, Adobe, Creative Suite, Creative Cloud, whatever, super easy to do my audio. So one thing I might do, I mentioned I have 2 clips. So another thing, if you do chop up your audio in the beginning and you're like, I forgot, and now you have a bunch of little clips and you want to process it all at the same time. Here's the second part of my video that I shot today. And I will drop this into the timeline. So I'll just come here and drop this in the timeline. Obviously, it's just a little bit. That's cool. Still way too long. You can see, okay, you can see I'm at 4K. I'm not fitting my screen, the timeline. Sequence setting. I'm not fitting that. One beautiful thing to do is come over here and hit Command C on the footage itself. Come over to your other footage and hit, what is it? Command Option V. No, sorry. It's just Option V for paste. And you can pick what things to paste over. So in this case, I have my adjustment layer, so there's no effects. And I just pull, if I want to color grade this one, I just pull the adjustment layer over to this new addition that I created here. And I'll Option V motion, because that is my settings for the scaling and the rotation and all that. So I just hit OK. Boom. Now we're matched. Now this whole clip, look at that. Other than, of course, I'm in a different spot, everything else matches. So everything's still at 78% or whatever it is. And there we go. So that's cool. Option, I live on copying and pasting attributes is huge. Command S, save that, of course. Let's see. Casey Neistat is going back to 1080 with a 6D Mark II question mark. Boom, that's a great tip. Thanks, Roman. I'm not sure which tip. Great stream. I'll have to rewatch from the beginning. You like that? Great, thanks. Even Casey Neistat announced he was going back to 1080. Yeah, the 60, you can't beat the flip out screen. If you're a vlogger, you have to have a flip out screen. I don't do a lot of vlogging with my Sony a6500. That's why it's okay, even though, man, I can't live without a flip. I went to Sony a6500. Drives me crazy. It needs a flip out screen. Come on, Sony. Finally put that in there. But anyways, 1080, yeah, if you're a vlogger, and I've done vlogs, and I've even done videos where I talk about vlog settings, 1080 for sure. That is quick turnaround. You want to be able to shoot a whole bunch, right? You're not going to eat up as much card, especially that quick turnaround, probably on a laptop, 1080 all the way, for sure. That's probably why he's doing that. You're slowly going more towards that in your color correction, the contrast. Yeah, it's all. I love that it's all personal taste, especially when it comes to grading. And let's see, that's Sean. What's up, Sean? And Casey Neistat going back to 1080p. You're asking. Watch this video from today. Cool. So is Peter McKinnon. Peter is awesome. Shoots such amazing video, and he's gonna Maddie Travel Feels. Yeah, I watch all these guys, of course, because they're into cameras and all the stuff I'm into. Maddie does great stuff. All their videos look beautiful. He copied David. I never seen a need for 4K. This is a great need. I mean, this is a great way. Recomposing shots, hands down. Taking one camera, making two cameras out of it, hands down worth it. But it depends on your production. Always depends on the type of production you're doing. Future proofs your content, David says, but yeah, it just costs way more time, way more work. But I like the future proof as well. It's always nice. 60 is full frame. Yeah, I just watched a video of a guy talking about why he's not using full frame anymore. Full frame's cool. But not a huge difference. Probably not worth it for most people who think they have to get a full frame camera. They don't. If that's your only reason to spend twice the amount, is that because you think you need full frame? You don't. But full frame is nice. I don't know where my a6500 is, but if I had my choice, I'd be on an A7S. Disabled adjustment layer to speed up the editing process for sure. Thoughts on Canon pick profile versus the Sony? You don't beat Canon's colors. That is the number one thing I miss from Canon. Having Canon is the Canon color. I've tried special profiles that I've purchased that's supposed to match Canon colors. Sony just can't get the colors right. But an S-Log2 with my own color grade, I like what I'm getting. And Sony has a more filmic look. I don't know how to explain that. It's just something, maybe it's a lower contrast look. There's something about it, to me, looks filmic, and I enjoy that. But I certainly have to work a lot harder with the color on a Sony than a Canon. So you don't beat Canon colors for sure. And again, if you're like a vlogger or something, straight out of camera, Canon probably all the way. Took about a year off. Cool. So let's jump over for the audio. Oh, what I was going to say is if I had two clips, and what I'm going to do here is just right click and go to, where is it? Actually, let's see. We could replace clip, but I don't want to do that. There it is. Edit clip in Adobe Audition. It's going to send it to Audition. I'm going to edit. I'm going to have to basically just go back and forth. Round trip is what they call it, from one app, Adobe app, to another. I love that. And I'd rather do it in Audition because it's just much easier and better to work with audio in Audition. And that's where I work with audio every day. Anyways, the plugins are here in Premiere. They're just, again, I'd much rather work in Audition. Adobe makes that really simple these days. Used to be Final Cut. I'd export out audio, take it into something like Final Soundtrack Pro. I love you, Soundtrack Pro. I miss you. And then bring it back in. It's ridiculous and kind of a pain. But this is made easy. But again, if I want to go through the process of doing all this audio processing and I want it to be exactly the same on the other, you can bring this whole thing. I could bring in the, if I go over to edit in Adobe Audition, instead of just the clip, we could edit the whole sequence. So if you have all your audio down here, but you're still going to get those two separated pieces of audio, what I could do when I'm in Audition, and there's almost certainly an easier way to do this, but I can combine these clips into their own. I can basically bounce them to a new track, so it'll all be together, and my processing will go all across the same thing. So actually, let's go ahead and, since I do want that to happen on all the clips I have here, which I think my audio is just in 2. Actually, the B-roll here, lots of B-roll for this one. I had to do one piece of B-roll where it's just me talking, but there's video. You'd think I would remember where that is, because something I forgot to say that I didn't like about the light. I definitely want to make sure that I included that, and this is that piece right here. Let me see. Why can't... there we go. It's rattling around. Okay, it's the rattle from the Bowens mount that I don't like. Did I talk about it, though? Where's the audio? I definitely want that processed. All right, that's just the B-roll. Now I have to find that piece of audio. This is not it. Maybe it was the very last thing. Let's find out.
Don't know if that's normal for a Bowens mount. Again, I'm new to...
So that audio, which sounds great already. I love that. It's a little bit more noise floor than I wanted there, but I have to put on the cans headphones. It's late. It's late. Well, it's not late. This is early for me, 10:30, but anyone else watching, because you're not on the West Coast, David is. Everyone else, it's probably late. So I want this in here too. So really, sure, I don't care if it has the video in it. I could bring in just the audio if I wanted to, but there's all the audio that I want processed. I'll go over here to edit, and we want to edit in Adobe Audition the sequence. So I do that. I give it a name. This is aperture. Aperture. They don't spell it like an aperture on a camera. So that always messes me up. Aperture C120D. And we want to make sure, I want that to make sure that it ends up, oh, it's already telling me it's there. It's in the folder I want it to be in. And go ahead and say, okay. So I can find it again when I need to. It's not just called something random. And it's preparing the audio to go to Audition, and it's taking a lot longer because everything that's going on my computer. Still 24% on the CPU over here on OBS. So the stuttery video, I'm not sure. And I'd like to figure that out before I stream all that PUBG. I'm not. That's where it's at, though. Okay, David, early tomorrow. Cool. Thanks for the stream. Thanks for checking in, man. We need to collab. Yes, the one thing I haven't done on YouTube is do collaboration. I need to do that for sure. No stutter in videos. Yeah, that would be cool. Hey, let's work out that streaming issue. It fits right into your wheelhouse. You're in San Diego until Monday. Rough life. Say hi to Luria. Rough life, you guys. Sunday. Hello from Switzerland. Ada, what's up? That's cool. All right, I don't know if David heard any of that, but we'll be in touch. All right, so here is, I'm not sure why the video is not there. It never is. Maybe I'm not viewing something. I don't need the video. I'm here to process the audio. And there is our audio. Now, you can see it brought it in, same spacing. There's I hit this little key over here, the backslash or the bar, and it shows me the entire screen. It fits everything into the screen. There's my audio that I want to process. Now, because this is broken up, if I double click one of the clips, it brings it into the waveform editor, which is where I want to do my editing, my processing. But it's only going to be for that clip, and I'd have to save some type of action that would apply to all the other clips, whatever. I'm not going to do that. So I go back to my multi-track. What I can do is I can go to this track, and I can, let's see, where is it? Bounce to a new track. So what that's going to do, I'm going to bounce the selected track. That's the track that says currently on cam. It's just what it's labeled in Premiere, I think. Not sure. Doesn't matter. I'm going to bounce this track, this selected track. So it's going to take these 3 clips. It's going to retain all the spacing. It's going to basically not mess up the alignment to the video, but it's going to create a new track for me that is one contiguous, I think I'm using that word right, contiguous track. And there it is. See, now we have the track and it's not broken up. Of course, everything is still lined up here. Let's see if you can hear this. Oh, you know what? Maybe you're not seeing Audition. Shoot. Sorry, guys. Again, oh, you're not even seeing Audition. So lame. Are you yelling at me in the chat? This match is held for review. He must have. Rough. All right, later. Okay, cool. He did see it. You're an SD. Yeah, that's right. Roman does awesome stuff. Tons of content. Live. He does everything. Roman, you're killing it, man. You've been doing it for years. And so you're not seeing that. That's my failure. Let me show you. Man, that's so lame. I'll reverse what I did in Audition. And I'll go back to OBS. I'll make the switch. Let's see. Video capture device, window capture. Let's see if let me change the source here. Let's see if it came up. There's Adobe Audition. There we go. Oh, yeah. The window looks not quite fitting. I will change that, I think. We try to change. Change the window in OBS so that the entire thing fits without bars. If I can make that happen without screwing things up here. All right, whatever. It's not going to be perfect. Let me see. I'll go to, I don't know if you're probably seeing this. I can go to Transform. Where's Transform? Transform. We can do Fit to Screen. All right. I don't care about those black bars right now because I want to just get this so you can see it. Now at least you're seeing Audition. We're in Audition. Here's the 3 clips I was talking about. It matches up exactly with our 3 clips and our video in Premiere, and this brought this whole sequence into Audition. And what I was saying is if I double clicked one clip, I'd be in the waveform editor right here. And this is where I want to make my adjustments and apply my effects. So instead of just doing them here on the track, which I could do effects right here in the track, but I want to see the real time. So like, here we go. The single band compressor is something I'm going to use. I can put that on, but I don't see the effect on the waveform. So that's why I'm not doing it here in the multi-track. Let me take that off. Instead, I want to do it in the waveform, but I want to do it all at the same time. I don't want to do it once and then have to do it a bunch of times. Again, I could probably run a process that would do that, but here's the way I'm going to handle it. It'll stay all in sync in the video and we'll be good. So I'm going to take this track that I'm on. It's right over here, the on cam, it's labeled. And I'm going to multi-track, bounce to a new track, the selected track. And that's going to go ahead and just create a new track. You can see that it's a contiguous track. It's all together, these clips. As soon as it finishes here, there it is. It's creating my new track, all the same spacing, everything's still in sync, except it's a single track. And when I double click to get into the waveform, there it is. I have all 3 clips. Here's clip 1, clip 2, clip 3, or maybe this is clip 1, clip 2, clip 3. I think that's what that is. And I can go ahead and do my processing. So let's see if we can hear this.
And it broke. Essentially, the softbox broke.
You should be able to hear that. So what do I want to do to this audio? A few different effects. And that single band compressor is one thing that I'm going to do, because what I want to do is see these. You see, here's most of the energy in the waveform here. And that looks good. And I just want to tame, I want to make it a little more consistent. So I want to take these larger peaks here, and I want to tame those. I want to bring those all down, so I don't just have these large peaks, and it's a little more consistent, and it's going to give me room, headroom up here. I need this room up here when I loudness normalize this audio and I bring everything up. I don't want this stuff to get crushed up here. So it's going to tame those peaks, be more consistent, and give me the headroom for my normalization. So here we go. I just use this single band compressor because it's simple, does what I need. So you can see here, here's a cool thing. You're like, well, where do I want to compress this to? And this is set up where I last did it. I don't want that to be it. Well, I think I got this tip from Curtis Judd. Lots of tips from Curtis today. And I mentioned you in the video, Curtis. Coming out soon, the aperture. And look, where do I want these to come down to? Right about this line would be nice. That's -9. Cool. -9 for my threshold. And then I've cranked up the ratio so that really pushes down and try to not let any of these transients get through. And the attack and release, I think, are left at their where they are already, because they're good. And no output gain. I'm just compressing. You know, a lot of people say compressor, and they're also talking about bringing up the lows while taming the highs. I'm not doing that. I want no additional gain applied in this stage. So we apply that, and Audition goes to work, and watch those peaks. They've come down. So before, after. Before, don't do that. Before, after. So you can see those peaks. Now look at everything is nice and consistent. Now the audio is not as loud as I want it to be. And when I say loud, watch, I'll play some of this and watch the audio meter down here.
A V-mount battery to power a Zoom F8 that I was using. Another recommendation from Curtis. Curtis, you do awesome.
That's funny because that part, Curtis getting all love today. That's how many dBs my audio is at any given time. That's not normalized for how we hear audio. So I want to make it consistent for that. The way I would do that would go into this radio production tab that I have, because it's going to give me the tools I want over here. And I've got this match loudness screen. I've got it set to, well, you're looking at a stereo. It's left and right, just because the way it's recorded in the camera. And so that would be a -16 LUFS, but we'll just leave it here. And we'll take this to, I'll bring it to the -16. And I've got 1.5 negative digital true peak, because your audio can still peak even if it doesn't show it here. And that's giving me that extra protection. So -16, I'll process this. I got to actually bring the audio. This is bounced wave 2. So I'll drop that into my match loudness. Got it -16. We'll run that, and it'll take a second here, and it'll process the audio. Now I'm going to do more effects to the audio. I'm just showing you this, which will affect the loudness normalization, but I'll run it again. This will bring it up too, so I can work with some noise removal, and I can hear everything that I actually want to remove. So the -16, it's too loud. It's probably cutting off. You see, everything is, the bottom looks good. So I probably have a phase issue here where I needed more room. Actually, it doesn't look bad up there. It's fine. Now we're at a much louder level.
You'll see I have a little bit of daylight, as I mentioned, coming in through a window in front of me, although it's covered.
All right, so that's the audio. And you can hear some noise floor in there. that's blank because there's nothing there. Let's listen for the noise floor. It's quite a bit. Not sure if that's just the room or where all that's coming from. There's a fan. Oh man, I wonder, I should check the battery. Still full battery in the Canon 60D. Nice job, Canon, with your batteries. Another reason I didn't use the T2i is because the battery's so small. I need to buy a continuous power supply, but killing it. This battery and the light. Excuse me. That one, I don't know where we're at. Let me check that. I can lean over here. Press the button. Whoa, 2 bars. Yeah. I got 2 bars. 2 of 4. Halfway there, but who knows how long before 1 bar. Anyways, loudness normalized. I'm going to work on that noise. In fact, I'm going to listen to this.
Key light.
I don't even have to really EQ that. I'm not too concerned about that right now. But if I wanted to, I would come to EQ. I usually do add some EQ. I would come down here to parametric EQ, and you can see this is whatever I had last time. Just go ahead and default that. Turn off a lot of these. I would take the high pass filter and I would drop that to like 80 to 90 hertz. I'll drop out some of that low end noise that's down there. Don't need that. I might adjust. I might take the 200 hertz range. I might give a small boost, fairly wide enough, somewhere in the low mid to give a little bit of that low mid sound I like.
But you can attach that to...
That's 0.9 and it sounds good. If I wanted to bring up the brightness a little bit, I could boost this high shelf here and bring this back a little.
The back, and it
sounds good. I'm bringing this only down to like 0.6, so I'm not really concerned about that. And we can just go ahead and apply that actually. So see, I can apply and see my changes. Ooh, now we're peaking and we get all kinds of problems. I have to loudness normalize this. I'm actually gonna bring this down to like -18. Paul, don't hate me. I usually don't put my YouTube video out as loud as the podcast audio because most people don't do loudness normalization on their audio. So mine's going to be much louder and that could be jarring. So until everyone else catches up, I might not go that loud. But we'll do -18. Still good for internet delivery. And my audio looks good. I don't need to analyze those statistics. That looks good there. In fact, it looks better.
Probably helps with the...
But let's deal with a little bit of that noise. I'm going to make it a little cleaner and the reverb. Now, I have 2 premium plugins. I don't buy a lot of plugins, but I did buy these 2. They're way worth it for helping with cleanup. Not to remove big problems. Reverb is a tough one that you generally can't deal with natively, but check out Mike Russell. He did a recent video about controlling reverb with some of the tools built into Audition, which is impressive. And I don't know how well it worked, but hey, check it out. It might work for you. The first effect we've got, I have Isotope in it. Wait for the sale for the RX plugin pack, like 6. I think this is 5. Yeah, RX 5. Comes with this declick, declip, dehum, and this one. If this was the only one that was in this pack, I paid like $90 or is it $29? It's some insane price. It's normally like hundreds of dollars. Dialogue denoise. You could do, so here's how it's almost like cheating using this. It's so good and easy, well worth it. If I didn't have that, if I had built in, I just go to the noise reduction restoration and you could use the adaptive noise reduction, which lets you just sort of do it in real time. And that works decently. You can do so much more in Isotope without degrading the sound, whereas this degrades the sound a lot faster. Or you can capture the noise print. So if we found some noise, let's go, there it is. That's perfect, right? So if I zoom in here to this spot, and here's the noise floor, you would highlight a little bit of the noise floor, you'd go up to the noise restoration, you'd capture your noise print. Yeah, sure, whatever. I don't need to see that again. And then you would highlight everything. And now you would go back to your noise restoration and you would go to noise reduction process. And
I finally got a new...
I mean, listen to this section now. Pretty clean, but I can hear the warble. warble that noise reduction causes. So I could back off this. But the noise is still there. So it's just not as good. You can obviously, there are ways to hone in the noise in the spectral frequency viewer here in Audition, stuff like that. But look, there's our noise floor. Let's just use Isotope because it's amazing. The dialogue denoise, come over here. Look, there's an option here. I can set it to auto. Okay. I'm going to set my threshold and my reduction down. And I'm just going to let it do its thing. Let's do it even here, a loop on the noise. And I'll loop this here. And we'll let Isotope do its thing on this noise. So less, but I still hear it. There we go. So I can bring up the threshold. But then I can bring up the reduction until it's gone, really. Right there, it's gone. And guess what? No warble. So I've actually taken away the noise without degrading the audio at all. And I can even I could stop this. I could go to manual. I can make some other adjustments as I wanted here manually. And I can hear it while it's playing. So I'm making those adjustments. So I've reduced it quite a bit. Stop this here. We can select all. Now we go into the audio. Now I didn't hear any noise in the quiet part. I took out that noise floor, but is it affecting the voice?
Space here where I record, I have lots of daylight that comes streaming in.
Audio still sounds fantastic. I might EQ to make that a less muddy. It might have made it a little more muddy, but it's not adding that underwater warble sound.
I kind of like the tungsten.
It sounds a little dead almost. I'm actually going to reduce it.
If I was choosing between the two, but this looks great and it helps me but this looks great and it lets me augment the light that I already have. Because when it comes to lighting,
it's not fair. So I've got everything selected. I'm gonna hit apply. We're gonna clean up that entire file and all my audio cleanup is gonna be done. That's a fairly intensive process here, so it's gonna take a couple minutes. Let me check over to the chat while that cranks away. Thanks, Roman. My pleasure. Is a shotgun mic like Rode really an option in a studio? If you have a studio, shotgun mic is definitely an option. When you say studio, I assume you mean a controlled environment. Shotgun mics are good pretty much anywhere. And the key is to get them close. The closer you can get it. But shotgun mics, for sure. I mean, if I had in this situation, if I mic this up with a shotgun mic and I put it, just out of frame like this and point it at me, I'm going to be able to have this with fantastic audio without a mic in the picture. Now, I'm an audio video guy, so I like having mics in the picture. It kind of goes with the setting that you're seeing me in. But if I didn't want a mic in the picture, that'd be one way to do it. Certainly that's a way to do it with video. And this space that I have, it's very reverberant. I need some treatment on the walls, which I have not built yet, but I'm planning to. And so having this mic really closer than the shotgun. Obviously, the shotgun would be here. This mic is right here. This really cuts down on that reverb in a really bad space. You're not hearing a lot of reverb because I'm so close. So that's another reason why. So it just depends on your space, but shotgun mics are, they're a fantastic option for sure. And that is finished here in Audition.
Lighting, you'd be amazed how much light video actually.
That is clean. Look, let's go to the quiet part. Yeah, wow. It's just silent with no degradation.
And the D is for...
So I'll make sure to save that. One thing we already did EQ, but based on that process that we just ran, I would actually come back to the EQ, and I think I want to take, instead of this bump here in the mid, sounds a little muddy to me. Maybe we can brighten it up a little bit more. So I'll brighten it a little bit.
Daylight. I got the daylight version
I'm going to bring down instead of up in the mid. I'm going to bring it down in the lows a little bit more.
because in my space here where I record, I have lots of daylight that comes streaming in. I kind of like the tungsten if I was choosing between the two, but this looks great and it helps me but this looks great and it lets me augment the light that I already have. Because when it comes to lighting, you'd be amazed how much light video actually takes. In order to have additional lighting, you can control the light, something you want to do when you're sitting here recording enough videos over enough period of time.
So that sounds better. It's not as muddy. So I took some of that low out. It's always hard for me to pull too much low out. We're our own worst enemy when it comes to audio because we don't like our own voices. I try to get it back to as natural as possible. So I'm going to apply that. Obviously, this again is going to affect all the normalization that I'm doing. It actually shifted back the phase. Not surprised when you EQ. But just to make sure we are again in target here, I'm going to run this loudness process one more time. And we're going to bring this back up to the -18 that I had it at. And we'll see where that sits when we're done. Make sure we're not peaking the audio anywhere. Well, I mean, this will actually bring that back down and prevent that. So I just want to definitely see the waveform. I can view the entire waveform here by pressing again the bar key. There you go. Everything looks good. Sounds good.
Now, this is one of the first purchases that I feel like I've made without trying it first. I love try before I buy.
Yeah, I like it. So I've processed my audio. You can see why I like doing this on Audition. So I can see what I'm doing. It's just so much more powerful than doing it in Premiere. I'm going to save that. Now, if we go back to Premiere, now because I did this bounce track, it's not here. So it must not be the way I usually do it. Usually this would be one contiguous track. It wouldn't be broken up. And I would save it and it would affect this audio here. So let's go to Audition and we will export this out. There's probably a better way to do this, but I will export out this file. We'll call it Aperture Final Audio. And we'll put that into our Aperture. Where is that? Our G drive. Got to find our Aperture. I want this in the same. We'll put it here in the Aperture. Do a wave, 44.1. Nope. I want that to be 48 to match. Why doesn't that match? Shouldn't be 44.1. Whatever. We're fine. I think we're fine. Yeah. Okay. We'll export that. And just for the sake of time, that's how we're going to do it. I'm actually going to quit Audition. Let's save yes to what we did. XML file there. All right. And we're back in Premiere. But what I need to do in OBS is switch. Oh, how long? Hopefully you're just now seeing. Were you seeing Audition that whole time? I hope so. Window capture. What a terrible freeze frame. It's better. Let's see. Window capture is now Premiere. So hopefully you were seeing Audition that whole time. If there's anyone even watching. I don't think there is. It's too late for everybody. Well, if you're watching this on the replay and you've actually made it this far, I've been streaming way too long. We're almost done. We're back in Premiere. That's what you're seeing. Let me go to YouTube. Let me see if you were seeing Audition. No. That super chat. David, what an animal. You're so awesome. I'm going to play this just for a second here. See if you were seeing Audition that whole time. You were. Very cool. Let me get out of this and finish this up. You're seeing Premiere. The window's not, if I want to be anal about this and make it fit. There we go. All right. So we're back in Premiere. I'm going to go get that file from our project. And that is Aperture Final Audio. If I put it in the right place, it should be in this interchange, Aperture C120. There we go. It's the bounced. Where are you hiding? Oh, come on. Aperture 120. Did I put it in the wrong place? Looking for a WAV file called Aperture. How did that happen? Bounced to WAV. It's not what we're looking for. I'm going to find it. This is why you don't close the program before you're done. Wow, that's super depressing. Maybe I put it somewhere else. Is there another Aperture folder? Wow. All right, well, this isn't how I want to end things. Where do you think, what if we search for Aperture Final Audio? There it is. Where the heck did we hide it? Show and closing folder. Aperture. Oh, look at that. I have an old, I did a video where I talked about how to change the aperture, and it's on this drive. There was another folder called Aperture. Sorry, everybody. Let me find the aperture that we're actually working on right now. The aperture spelled the other way. This is painful for everybody. But you definitely want it in the folder where it's going to live, because if you don't do that, you won't find it again. So here we go. Aperture C120 review. Here's our file. We'll drop that in there. All right. Sorry. Aperture Final Audio. And now, because we know it's the proper length, I'll go down to an available track. Looks like A4 down here. Yep. I'm going to make sure that this is, I can see the entire timeline. We'll take our processed audio, and 4, we'll just drop it in here at the beginning, and it should line up. There we go. Look at this. It's exactly not the same length. You know why? I know why. Because in Audition, we bounce the track. It wasn't shifted for the other stuff. That doesn't make sense, actually. All right, well, things have fallen apart here at the end. But if I line it up with the other audio, that is going to be a fix for us right now. And it ends when this one ends, and it should be in sync. It's going to be loud.
It's universal, but one of the things I don't like is how loose the connection is. Don't know if that's normal.
Okay, there. So no out of sync issue there. No problem. It just didn't, bounce track didn't include this other stuff here. No big deal. We'll mute the raw audio track. Sometimes I even drop this just to make sure, but it's fine. Now we have the processed audio.
Chip, so you get that single source instead of like a big panel with a whole bunch of little.
So here we go. Here's the processed. We'll turn that off. Here's the unprocessed audio. Ooh, noisy.
LEDs on a big panel.
Not bad, but some hiss under there. When I'm talking, it's not bad, but again, we're going to bring up the level. We'll mute that. And now let's play the nice. Here's the gap that you heard the hiss in. Clean. And the voice again.
Instead of a bunch of LEDs on a...
Oh, I didn't put in the deverb. So the reverb in this is not that bad because I have a blanket over one of the big windows, a big sound blanket. I have a plugin called Deverb, SPL Audio, I think it is. and just removes a little bit of it. And a good another bit of polishing that is nice. I don't need it here, so it's not a big deal.
A big panel that is obviously takes up more space.
This actually almost maybe too much noise removed. It's not affecting the audio, but it is, you can hear something. And I might go back and EQ a little bit, but it's good. It's nice and clean. We'll save that. So I've got my audio. So now I can go ahead and cut. Now, of course, if I cut and I shift things, I'm going to have to cut this other track as well. We can go ahead. We could link this. We could like take this track, highlight that track, and we could nest these together. We can merge the clips, right? We could just create a merge clip here so that when I move, that didn't do it. Forget your merge clip. What I meant was to go ahead and you could, I don't think I want to nest them. You could link them. You could group them. Let's see. There you go. If you group them, they'll move together so you don't lose your sync. Or we could, now they're grouped, we could nest this. And there's a nested sequence. In theory, it didn't nest with the audio. That's multiple tracks. So is it still grouped? There, that's fine. So it's grouped together. Our tracks in sync. Now, if I make a cut, we're just cutting that. You put the blade on. You either do double blade for in Audition, you get 2 blades. Otherwise, I would also hold Shift and you get your double blade, make your cut, and then in this case, since they're grouped, I can take this, and I can't do that. So I'd have to do it the harder way, whereas I'd have to select them all. Okay, you don't want to group. Okay, never mind. It's turning into a disaster at the end. I'm doing a lot of things that I don't normally do because I went and bounced that clip. But basically, you want all this to stay together. And I would make, let's see, let's take that rid of that. Basically, when I blade stuff here, I'm blading across all of them. And then you'd want to make sure that it stays in sync and you would select them all and move them. There's an easier way to do that. I won't deal with it now because we've done way too much. And it's easier not to go ahead and figure that out in real time. That's it. These things are never supposed to be this long, but half of this was to test the live stream setup that you're seeing. Camera via USB. Again, check the links. How I'm doing that is all down there. Using the custom live stream instead of the Hangouts. I am going to use Hangouts as well. I always use it for my podcast that I record on YouTube at youtube.com/podcastersroundtable if you're into podcasting. But this live stream for this YouTube channel, we're at 1080, so hopefully it looks pretty good, even after it goes through YouTube compression. And that's it. We got 5 watching. It says there's 5 watching. That's cool. I don't know if there's in the chat. Let's double check that chat. Chat looks like it's gone quiet, so we are good. Thanks for joining me. Those are some of the first things I do. Obviously, it got a little messy there. Tried to do a couple different things I don't normally do. But those are some of the things the first things I do. The color correct, maybe a little color grading, and fixing the audio. Now I'm ready to go. The image is going to look the same all across. Again, because we have our color correction and it's on a layer. All I have to do is basically activate it. There's our nice color correction and our audio is done. Now I can hack away. I'm going to cut this up in chunks, put in my B-roll, create the actual edit and story, and that will be a video. So ask your comments, ask your questions in the comments if you weren't here live, and I'll see you on the next one. Next live, next video, all coming soon, soonish. Make no promises, but I will see you next time.